Welcome to another edition of the Willie Bragg Show. I'm your host, Willie Bragg. We'll have a little intro music very shortly, but we will talk about whataboutisms today because there's a whole lot of that going on anytime there's a catastrophe. So we'll start with a little bit of music and we will discuss. So hold tight. Getting y'all in the mood. Let's see. All right. Welcome to another edition of the Willie Bragg Show, and I hope each and every one of you are doing well. And as I said, I'm going to try to bring clarity into a society which lacks clarity. So Anyway, let's start with some graphics here, and I can explain a little bit better. So give me a moment here. As you know, on May the 14th, a few days ago, Saturday, at a grocery store called Tops in Buffalo, New York, there was a mass shooting that took place. And some kid by the name of Peyton S Gendron came in and massacred or shot about 10 people. I believe murdered 10 people at this Tops store. Apparently he was not from this area or that area. He just came in there and simply shot him because he felt like that the white race was being slowly replaced in the United States. He was a piece of shit bigot that went with this, what is called, what's it called? The replacement theory. I believe that's what it's called. I'll show you what this kid looked like momentarily with a mask, a COVID mask, and without him. Yeah, there he is. This is this kid. And as I said, he sort of fallen for that. A lot of people seem to maybe not take it to the level of this kid, but seem to have paranoid fears that America is no longer a white nation as they used to know it. And which is ridiculous. Which is ridiculous that they think that the culture is changing and everything is going to change, or what have you. And it's just when people live with uncertain economics, and you have an insane world with just people. You have politicians who don't give a shit about their constituents, and they just go and bid to the highest bidder. And the whole crony capitalist thing that takes place by the two-party system, they're pretty much just, and they use the culture war to pretty much use to basically pit everybody against each other divisively. It's no wonder this kind of shit ends up happening, and it's most unfortunate. But of course, when a national tragedy, especially here in the United States, takes place, what happens? People have to blame. People do the little blame game. And so that's where it all fits in. So, well, we'll start with Tucker Carlson. Now, I'm hearing certain talking heads from the left, on the online left, and maybe even some in the regular media, and liberal voices insinuate that Tucker Carlson, they are almost basically saying Tucker Carlson incited this kid to do this. Now, I'm not a fan of Tucker Carlson, and I don't like what he has to say when it comes to, he does kind of echo sentiment about this replacement theory, this race replacement theory. But to say that Tucker Carlson is at the source of this kid doing this would be kind of like saying, well, in the late 80s and during the 1980s and early 1990s, kids listening to heavy metal causes people to go murder and mutilate animals and commit suicide. Like listening to Judas Priest or listening to Motley Crue is going to make you do all these things. And that's how ridiculous it sounds. I mean, if you're a young kid and you're listening to some nerd on Fox News like Tucker Carlson, who, and good Lord, I mean, Jon Stewart made him stop wearing the bow tie. I mean, and as I said, no fan of Tucker Carlson. The son of a bitch used to belong to the Jesse Helms Society when he was in college. So, the bigot factor is there. Is he the most toxic voice? Hardly, but he's pretty bad news in a lot of ways. But to basically say that he's at the source of all this, this is the reason I'm going to say it's a little bit irresponsible is this is what the right would do when there's a catastrophe. It's basically the whataboutism. Because I'll give you an example. When 9/11 happened, guess what happened when 9/11 happened? Jerry Falwell and Pat Robertson basically blamed the ACLU, and they blame the election of Bill Clinton in 1992, and they blame the ACLU, and they blame increased tolerance for homosexuals and lesbians, and abortion rights, and feminism, and overall tolerance, and that pissed off the Muslim world, and that's what caused 9/11 to happen. Dinesh D'Souza kind of echoed that sentiment in 2006, 2007. Treasonous remarks, if there ever was one, and these same people were the same people that wanted to go after the University of Colorado professor Ward Churchill when he basically said, blowback. Basically, I mean, he didn't use the term blowback, but that term, I mean, he basically said the United States foreign policy kind of incited the situation. Ward Churchill was more correct than Pat Robertson or Jerry Falwell or someone like Dinesh D'Souza, for damn sure by a long shot. Now, I may not embrace the extreme anti-imperialist politics of someone like Ward Churchill, who would necessarily root 100% for the other side, but he's not that far off from the truth, whereas Pat Robertson and Jerry Falwell just want to say Democrats are evil, and that's what it comes down to. Democrats are shitty, but not for the reason Pat Robertson and Jerry Falwell says that they're shitty. So, and this is basically what I'm getting to. Anytime there's a catastrophe, it's always blame, blame, blame. This kid, what's his name? His kid, Peyton S Gendron. The kid was fucked up. That's what it comes down to. I don't know what his upbringing was like. I don't know if he was picked on in school. I don't know what circumstances, what his surroundings were, what his environment was, the product of his environment. But something snapped. Many things that happened in his life made him snap. And I think that we can all agree it was fucked up. No matter what political party you belong to, what political ideology you ascribe to in the center-left, center-right divide. And that's what it comes down to. Every time there is a catastrophe, it's always, or a crisis, it's always blame somebody. The January 6th insurrection, they found a way to blame the left for that, saying, they're secretly Antifa people and secretly Black Lives Matter people that went in and led all these morons into the Capitol with the Confederate flags, looking for Mike Pence to hang and stealing Nancy Pelosi's computer. These QAnon idiots that even Alex Jones disavowed. It's always, they always try to blame somebody. Now, as a lifelong leftist, I'm tribalistic like anybody. The right, there are people on the right. I'm not going to blame them for being tribalistic to a degree, but to act like that, their side can never do anything wrong, and that's how they do. They'll sit there and they will say, "Well, my side would never do anything wrong." It's sort of like Nazism. They'll be like, well, Hitler was a leftist. Mussolini was a leftist. No, they weren't. They were right-wingers. But they'll be like, no. They were leftists. Everything that's evil in history was always on the left. That's how they will paint it. And they're historical revisionist retards. And that's what they are. And they work overtime. In the last 25 years, I've seen them do this sort of acrobat over and over on talk radio, on Fox News, whenever I have the stomach to watch it on TV. These crazy TV preachers and these morons online on, your Ben Shapiro types and your Steven Crowders and all of these morons out there. They do this sort of thing. I even saw Alex Jones and Steven Crowder find a way to say that George Orwell was a right-winger. which he was not. They said, oh, George Orwell was not a socialist. Yes, he fucking was. And he wrote 1984 as somebody who was opposed to all forms of totalitarianism. And his path toward socialism was a path toward what he thought real freedom was. So that's basically what I'm trying to say. Now, as I said, I am a socialist, and I do think that socialism leads to the best path toward freedom. That's what I believe. In the words of Michael Foot, leader of the British Labour Party, when he was interviewed what kind of a socialist he was, he says, well, I suppose if I'm anything, I'm a libertarian socialist, he says, because I believe that socialism is the greatest way to achieve the most freedom for the people. And I was like, I like that. That's what I believe. That's exactly what I believe. But the thing about it is, they'll take a tragedy and try to pin it. Now, as a leftist, I have to own shit. I'm not a Stalinist. I don't like what Joseph Stalin did in the Soviet Union. Or, I don't like what Mao did in China. I don't like what Pol Pot did in Cambodia. But as a leftist, I have to own it. It has nothing to do with me not in the slightest sense of the word. Except that they, being nominally on the left, I know that that's it down in the fringes. That's what led to whatever they did. Same thing with the Nazis and the fascists on the right. Center-right conservatism would never have anything to do with Nazism or fascism. But you stretch the envelope far enough, it will go that direction. Doesn't mean that the average conservative or the average libertarian or what have you are just like Hitler and the Nazis. But they had to own up to that shit too. If that's just too bold, I'll give you some good domestic examples. And we're going to start with the left, because I think the left is always a good place to start. As a leftist, and we'll go to the 1970s. And because the Symbionese Liberation Army, Patty Hearst, y'all remember, they kidnapped her, and they did a slew of bank robberies and all of that, and they were going to try to do an overthrow of the U.S. government. They were ultra left-wing radical group. They were doing acts of terrorism. There was other groups like the Weathermen in the early 70s. They did some bombings or whatever. They were all on the left. It's not anything I would do, even though I'm kind of hippie and dippy and all of that. It's just I would never go that far. They're on the left, but I wouldn't take it that far. I sure as hell wouldn't. So, but I have to own up to it. Same thing with the right in the 1980s. What happened with the right? Well, I'll tell you what happened. In the early 1980s, there was a piece of shit that lived up in the Pacific Northwest by the name of, hold on a second, let me find it, because here we go. Give me a second here. His name was Robert Matthews, who was a leader of a white nationalist group called The Order. And he led a paramilitary organization called The Order, modeled after the Turner Diaries. And he was going to try to start his white nationalist revolution. And he did try to copy what was in that book with the bank robberies and the counterfeit rings and assassinations of people, which led to the murder of a left-wing Jewish radio talk show host in Denver, Colorado by the name of Alan Berg. Shot him in cold blood, some of the people from The Order. Okay, now your regular, even your obnoxious Trump supporters going to look at that and be like, get that shit away from me, I mean, and your average Bernie bro is going to look at the people blowing shit up in the early 70s with the Weathermen, and they're going to be like, same thing. Hey, get that shit away from me, I mean, come on, So what I got to say is, you got a left-right spectrum, and there's always going to be in the fringes unpleasant shit on the margins. You know it's there. You have nothing to do with it. I mean, they just took a fucked up path whether it's the fucked up path on this margin of the left or that margin on the right. And and even in the farther left and farther right, you got some people on the farther left that won't ever go on a violent path. And same thing with people on the farther right, they would never go on a violent. It just depends on individual organizations and how they view things. So there's a lot of nuance out there. But the thing I'm trying to get at is there's a lot of people wanting to sit there and score political points and to sit there and blame the other side. Gotcha. I gotcha. I own your ass. A Ben Shapiro move. I just own you. Yeah. A Rachel Maddow move. Yeah. I just own you. Yeah. That sort of thing. And honestly, it's stupid. It is just absolutely stupid. I used to joke that I oppose the authoritarian left, I oppose the authoritarian right, and I oppose the authoritarian center. But it looks like that the authoritarian left and the authoritarian right, that they're taking over that center. And we're in America now, the Democratic Party is the Democratic Party of Nina Jankowicz, and the Republican Party is the Republican Party of Marjorie Taylor Greene. Get that shit away from me, That's where I stand with that. But, this is where we're at in this country. And again, we're talking about the extreme margins of any society, that's out there. And for some reason, you got people that just want to pin the blame and just want to sit there and take one half of the country. And I hate to put it down like one half of the country. It sounds like I'm saying red team, blue team. But I'm going to say red team and blue team just for this instance, because not everybody in the blue team is blue. Blue team will consist of the Green Party. It will consist of independent lefties. It will consist of, of very nonpartisan people. It's just basically the gamut of the left. The red team, same thing, whether it's the Constitution Party or the Libertarian Party or what have you. So we're going to say red-blue divide. And sometimes there's some nuances with some of these people individually within these movements. But what I'm trying to make is that everybody wants to reach out and do the blame game and as quickly as they can. And why can't we for once take a look at a tragedy and say, hey, this fucking sucks. What can we do to make this better? What can we do to correct this shit? Instead of just, because you're going to hear, we need more guns. We had everybody armed. That wouldn't have never happened. Or we need more gun control, and that would have never happened. It's those gun nuts. It's those gun grabbers. That's what we're going to get stuck with. And we're going to be hearing that shit for probably the next 11, 12 months to probably the next 2 years until the next presidential election. And as I said, I hate it when I hate a tragedy in itself. I just hate the aftermath of the tragedy because it just frustrates me that people want to sit there and politicize it, and it stresses the fuck out of me because I have to hear it from, I'm tribalistic. I have to hear it from the right, and it pisses me off because they want to start a fucking fight about it, and they want to sit there and really, they want to start a fight and listen, I'm combative. They want to start a fight. I'm mellow to a degree, but they want to start a fight with me about this shit. I'll try to finish it. I'll try to finish it. I try to be magnanimous and I try to be open-minded, and I try to be cordial even to people I disagree with. But when they go and somebody becomes an asshole to me, I'm going to try to be twice an asshole back. And that's what it comes down to. So anyway, I just wanted to get that out of my chest and all of that. So we have a chat line here. Dirtbag Leftist, good morning. Let's see. It's like pouring gas on the fire is the cause of the fire. Pretty much. And good morning to you, sir. And let's see. We have anybody else here on the chat line want to say hello? Please do right now. I would be glad to have a little conversation before I sign off. I was not going to do a video today, but because I had some shit I had to do this morning. I had to get my car serviced and all that. But I was like, well, I needed to discuss this shooting, and I needed to do this. So here I am doing this right now. So if not, I will say that if you like what you heard, press like and comment. If you disagree, comment anyway. We'll have a conversation. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it, because we're the muckrakers of our time. Feel free to subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell. And until next time, we have a class struggle to wage. And we have national healing to do. Really, we do. And for all the people who are bordering on racism right now, there's no replacement conspiracy going on. There's no replacement thing going on. Really, people need to be fucking mellow and be tolerant, honestly. Until next time, we're all Julian Assange. Music.